He bought the 19-year-old virgin bride for $3, but she screamed when the cowboy kneeled. Men had gathered, miners, drifters, ranchers, faces cracked by years of sun and sin. They came for cattle, tools, whiskey, and sometimes for things no decent man should sell. Then he came, the cowboy. Name Caleb Reeves. Dust clung to his boots, and sorrow clung to his eyes. He wasn't there to buy, he was there to settle something deep inside, a promise made to a dying friend long ago. $3 silver burned a hole in his palm. That was all he had left from a life once rich with meaning. From the shadows at the far end of the barn, a voice barked, "Next lot!" A hush fell. Out of the darkness stepped a girl, barefoot, her wrists raw from rope. She couldn't have seen more than 19 summers, but the years of hardship had carved endurance into her features. Her name, the auctioneer said, was Lila Mae Hart. Her father had gambled away everything, including her indenture papers. What the law called a debt settlement was nothing short of ruin. When she lifted her eyes, Caleb saw fear and fury wrestle behind them. She wasn't pleading. She was daring the world not to break her. $3. The voice came from Caleb, quiet but steady. The crowd laughed. "Ain't worth a sack of beans." One miner spat. Caleb didn't blink. $3, he repeated. The auctioneer slammed his gavel. "Sold." Leila's head jerked toward the sound. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Only a short, sharp scream torn between disbelief and rage. To her, another man had just claimed her life for the price of a meal. To Caleb, he'd just bought her freedom. He stepped forward slowly, hat in hand, voice soft. "You're safe now," he said. "I ain't your owner, miss. I'm just setting you free." But the word free meant nothing to someone who'd only ever known chains. She stumbled back, trembling, staring at him as if he were the cruelest trick the desert had ever played. Outside, the storm was gathering. The wind kicked dust into spirals, rattling the old sign that read Dust Creek Exchange. Caleb led his horse, Shadow, to the hitch rail, speaking low. "She's just a kid, boy. Scared half to death. We'll head east come sunrise." Behind him, the barn door creaked. Lila stood there, fists clenched. "Why?" she demanded. Her voice shook, but it carried a strength that made Caleb pause. "Why'd you do it? You don't even know me." Caleb turned, the fading sun catching the scar across his jaw. "Because someone once saved me for less than $3, he said. "Figured it's my turn to pay it forward." She stared, silent. The wind pulled her hair across her face, and for the first time she didn't look like a victim. She looked like a storm waiting to be named. That night, they camped by the riverbank. Caleb kept his distance, giving her space, letting the fire's crackle fill the silence. Lila watched him from across the flames, suspicion etched deep. He could feel her mistrust, but he didn't mind. Mistrust meant she still had fight in her. When the moon rose high, he took off his hat, knelt by the fire, and bowed his head. His hands shook slightly as he opened a small leather pouch. Inside was a broken locket with a photograph of a woman and a child. His voice was barely a whisper. "Mary, I did what you asked. She's safe now." Lila's eyes widened. That was when she screamed, not from fear but from realization. The way he knelt, the way his voice cracked, it wasn't an act of ownership but of mourning. He wasn't a monster. He was a man trying to make peace with ghosts, and in that moment the desert changed. The wind softened. The stars came closer. And Lila Mae Hart understood that sometimes salvation wears the face of sorrow. The night wind rolled across the Badlands like a warning. By dawn, the sky had turned the color of ash. Caleb Reeves packed his saddlebag in silence while the girl he'd freed, Lila Mae Hart, sat near the dying embers of the campfire, her arms wrapped around her knees. Neither of them had slept much. The desert had a way of keeping old ghosts awake. "Eat something," Caleb said, handing her a piece of dried jerky. She looked at it, then at him. "I don't owe you anything." He nodded slowly. "Didn't say you did." They rode out before sunrise. The horizon stretched endless and cruel. The earth cracked from months without rain. Above them, dark clouds gathered like an army. The wind picked up grit, filling the air with a low hiss that sounded almost human. Caleb guided his horse toward an abandoned ranch he remembered from years ago. Half-burned, left to the coyotes and the wind. "We'll hole up there till the storm passes," he said. Lila didn't answer, but her eyes scanned the horizon like she was memorizing escape routes. By midday, the sky fell. Sand whipped through the air so thick it turned the world to smoke. They reached the ranch barely in time, just a collapsed barn and a stone well still standing. Caleb pulled the door closed behind them, blocking the gale. Inside, it smelled of dust and old hay. He spread his coat on the floor. "Rest," he said. "Storm'll take a few hours." Lila hesitated, then sank down, too exhausted to argue. The wind roared outside, shaking the walls. She watched him across the room, the brim of his hat casting a shadow over his face. There was something in his stillness that unsettled her, a man used to losing more than he could keep. After a long silence, she asked, "You said someone saved you once." "Who?" Caleb didn't look up. "A preacher's wife. Found me half dead after a raid. Gave me water, patched my wounds, told me the Lord don't forget even the worst of us." "She sounds kind." She was. "Died because she stayed to help folks like me." The storm pounded harder. Lila turned away so he wouldn't see the tear she wiped from her cheek. Hours later, when the wind finally quieted, a new sound rose from the distance. Hooves. At first faint, then sharper, echoing across the flats. Caleb stood, hand on his revolver. "Someone's comin'," he said. Lila froze. Who would follow us? He met her eyes. "Men who don't like losing what they think they own." Through a crack in the barn wall, he counted 3 riders, silhouettes against the fading light. One carried a rifle slung low, another a red scarf tied around his neck, the mark of Dalton Price, the gambler who had arranged her auction. "Get down," Caleb whispered. He pushed the saddlebag toward her. "There's a pistol inside. You know how to use it?" She swallowed. "My pa taught me before he lost everything. Then stay behind me. Don't shoot till I do." The riders circled the barn. Dust rose around their horses like smoke. One of them shouted, "Reeves! We know you're in there. The girl's property. Hand her over, and we'll let you walk away." Caleb stepped into the open doorway, his silhouette framed by the setting sun. "Ain't no property here," he called back. "She's free," Dalton Price laughed from his horse. "Freedom don't come cheap, cowboy. $3 don't buy salvation." "Maybe not," Caleb said, cocking his revolver, "but it's a start." The standoff cracked open like thunder. Gunfire split the air, 1 shot, then 2. The barn filled with smoke and dust. Lila ducked low, heart hammering. When she looked up, Caleb was beside her, steady, eyes blazing. "Stay with me," he said. She fired once, the recoil jolting her shoulder. A rider fell. Silence followed, heavy, unreal. Then the last horseman turned and fled into the desert, trailing dust like a ghost. When it was over, Caleb lowered his gun slowly. The smell of gunpowder lingered in the air. Lila stared at him, shaking. "You could have died," she whispered. He gave a tired smile. "Wouldn't be the first time." Outside, the clouds broke just enough for a sliver of light to touch the sand. It shimmered like a promise. Caleb leaned against a post, breathing hard. "We can't stay here. Word'll spread. Where will we go?" "East. There's a town called Redemption Ridge. Folks there don't ask too many questions." Lila looked toward the horizon, the faint glow of dawn returning. For the first time since he'd bought her freedom, she didn't feel like running. "Why help me?" she asked quietly. Caleb's eyes softened. "Because when I knelt last night, it wasn't for forgiveness. It was for a promise that I'd never let another soul be lost like I was." The wind sighed through the cracks in the barn, carrying away the last echo of gunfire. Lila nodded slowly. The storm inside her began to calm. They saddled up and rode toward the rising sun. 2 silhouettes against the endless plain, one haunted by his past, the other learning that freedom, once given, had to be claimed. And somewhere far behind them, Dust Creek faded into memory.